Hello, this is our first set of slides from Module 1, and I just wanted to give you a chance to get a little more information than just from the book and just looking at the slides. So I'm Professor Secord, and I'm just going to kind of go through these with you and just give you a chance to get a little more information. So who am I, obviously, is that first portion. It's about establishing a healthy concept of who you are as a person, which is a very important part of the journey of this class. So I'm looking forward to us going through that journey together. So in the chapter reading, you're hopefully being able to understand the dynamic interaction between mind and body and how that impacts wellness. Also being able to describe the concepts of immaterialism, materialism, and holism. Those are three different ideas. Being able to understand how self-perception will affect your wellness level, providing clear working definition of wellness and explain how that definition of wellness has kind of changed over time, and then being able to identify the factors that do affect your health and your overall wellness. So that's the journey of this set of slides as well. So one of the best things I like about this class is it really brings together the mind and the body and not just separating them like we have done in years past. The mind and body are integrated systems, so I like to kind of think of them as being together instead of two separate parts. Our memories are actually stored in our body, not just in our brain, which can be kind of a confusing concept, but the science behind it just shows us that we literally can sometimes feel things in other parts of our body, especially our gut, which is something that our book definitely explores a lot in this class. So psychoneuroimmunology is one of my favorite words to say. We can refer to it as PNI. That studies how thoughts and feelings affect the functioning of our cells. So I like to think about our whole body working together and how each cell is going to, kind of like an orchestra, work together to help it work properly. And when things are off in any way, shape, or form, it does affect how well our cells will function, which then, of course, will impact our health. Some examples of the mind-body connection are, again, kind of the idea of your gut or your belly has all these different cells in it that communicate to your body. And what happens is when you're having issues with that part of your body, it actually affects your whole body. When you have too much stress, your body actually ages faster. And living in a society with lots of stress as we do, it's easy for us to forget that we can do some things which will help us improve that. So it's very exciting to know we actually can do some things to make it better. The interactions between the brain and the immune system are so significant. The way that we're thinking and how our immune system performs and its ability to fight off diseases and infections, as well as kind of keep our own immune system stronger, is so key. And then keeping in mind, and the book talks about this a lot throughout the whole class, is that the more physically active you are, as long as it's not over exercising, it actually can even make you smarter. There's this concept of our axons and dendrites working together, and I like to kind of think of it as like a highway with all these different roads that go off of it. When you have a clogged area of a place like Chicago and you cannot find other routes to drive, then you don't get to where you want to go as fast. And in our bodies, what we have found, I know they did a study in Naperville outside of Chicago, where students that actually worked out before they took their math classes were able to improve their testing scores significantly because they had PE class before they actually went to math class. And it's the idea that our body can make those dendrites easier when it just had physical exercise. So I always try to encourage even my Western students to work out before you go to a really tough class. Like if you have a math class that's really hard, or just one of your classes is just really intense, the rigor is very high, I highly recommend going to the idea of working out before that happens. So it's just important to know that the enteric nervous system, the ENS, is the brain in our belly, and the transmitters working with it, such as serotonin, play a role in our digestion, which is why sometimes we don't feel as good. So just going back to that concept of the brain in your belly, having too much stress again can just really age us. And then it's just so important to know our thoughts and feelings affect the function of our cells, and distress actually makes us age faster, shortening these things called telomeres. And you can actually see a picture of them in the slide, and those actually get shorter as we age. So important to keep them longer by doing things like exercising. The next concept is just how do I look at myself? I am only my mind is one school of thought where the body is thought of as just being your mind, and the body is just an entity, kind of like a vessel, so to speak, that's not really who you are. And that's that thought of immaterialism. Whereas another school of thought is I am only my body, and that's materialism, thinking of your body is everything, and we're just a collection of all these atoms that are put together and respond to stimulation, and the mind is just not a significant portion of the equation. And then lastly is this idea of holism, which is I am my body and I am my mind, which is what I like to focus on because that's something that we have much more control over, and they work in together, interdependent, and making us one person. And that's something that gives us hope too, that we can really improve our health at the same time as we work on it. So just kind of this idea of thinking about how do your perceptions of self affect your personal well-being. So what is going on up in your brain? How is it affecting your well-being? When your body doesn't feel well, how does that affect your thoughts and your feelings? I think of like just having a stomach ache or having like the stomach flu, how that just makes you feel down because you're not feeling good, and it just kind of changes your overall feel of how you look at yourself, things that kind of hopeless. But just in general, just even chronically, sometimes we have things that can really affect us if we're not feeling well on like a regular basis. How does your confidence level affect your performance? So how you feel about your ability to do things, does that affect your performance? Meaning, do I feel like I'm able to do something well, therefore I perform even better? Or that idea of, am I just basically going to not do things well because I just don't have any confidence at all, which can be scary for people. And it's important that we're willing to try things even if we don't have a super high confidence level in that particular item, but maybe just this idea of a growth mindset of how we can definitely do things even if we're not used to them. We can give them a try and learn. Even if we mess up a little bit, it's okay. It's not a problem. So in what ways do you express your emotions or feel your emotions in your body? So thinking about those things are just part of this journey of, who am I, this part of my health. Wellness in the 21st century, this idea of health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, which is good to kind of think about the fact that, okay, you might have asthma, but that doesn't mean you can't still have health and still work on being someone who tries to be their best version of themselves, even if there is a disease present. Wellness, I love to think about a little bit more because it's this active process. It's this daily engagement of working on all the dimensions so that we can be our best self and know that it's a journey. You're not just going to arrive there today and then you're all good to go. It's just going to be a daily journey of your life. So thinking about your factors that make up your well-being, we're going to be looking at those closer here. Just a couple stats to kind of get you thinking about how over time things have changed. In the earliest 20th century, the average life expectancy for Americans was less than 50, which has changed a lot, and I'm grateful at the age of 53 that that has changed. The leading cause of death was back then infections and just accidents. Now people live more into their 80s and 90s, and the leading cause of death is a chronic disease, something that just kind of keeps irritating our body over time. And of course, this shows us like heart disease is still at the top, kind of going all the way down to even things like influenza and pneumonia, which of course we have vaccines for and things now, so that can change that greatly. So just being aware of what types of things maybe run in your family and just what kind of things you might do to help decrease your chances. So we have these dimensions of making up our wellness. You can see there's 8 of them. The spiritual dimension focuses more on like how we see ourselves interacting with our purpose. Like, why are we here on this earth? Sometimes this is guided by religion, not always. It can be more that sense of well-being of, I'm giving back to the world and what is my sense of purpose. It's definitely a journey. Sometimes prayer and different things can help with that journey. It just depends on what the person personally is comfortable with. Our environment is more that thought of what's around us, what kind of things are interacting. It could be pollution, but it's also things like living with someone that might be toxic for us and how that could impact our life. Intellectually, we're all working on becoming a little more wise, even by taking this class. So, this idea of your brain has this neuroplasticity. We want it to always grow and develop and have that strength, so to speak, of being capable of learning. So, always doing things to stimulate, whether it's puzzles, learning, trying new things, that's going to help the intellectual component. Physical component is more what we think of probably when we think of taking a health class. Our physical body, whether it's fighting off illness, whether it's exercise, proper nutrition, getting enough sleep, also getting your checkups and going to doctors just for even physicals, not when something's wrong per se, but just checking up on yourself. Financial wellness is the idea of we're only using money that really has to be used or spending money that we really need to spend things on, and possibly even storing up some money to help us for future. And obviously, when you're in college, this is a harder time to do that. And you're also giving to yourself greatly right now by contributing to your own study, what you're trying to get a job in, your occupation. That's really a good thing that you're working on and developing right now. So it might take a little bit of money to get to that point where you can have some financial independence. Emotional, that's how are we responding to the relationships in our life and what's our emotional intelligence? Like, are we able to notice how we're feeling and then respond in a way that's going to be the best for us, and not just us but other people around us. A lot of times people don't realize that if you can figure out where you're at in life and how you're feeling each day by checking in, that you can actually respond in a way that's going to be better for you and more beneficial to the people around you. So these choices we're making every day, even emotionally, can impact our longevity and quality of life. Social, we're thinking of those relationships that we do have. Maybe there's a few that need to be severed if they're causing you a lot of anguish and they're not serving you well, especially if they're not like a family member. But sometimes we're in relationships, whether it be dating, whether it be just friendships, etc., that cause us lots of pain. And sometimes there's things we need to do to resolve conflicts. But that social endeavor of looking and trying to work the best on those relationships as well. And then occupational is the career. You're already working on that right now by taking classes, kind of like intellectual. And this is, how hard am I working on my classes? Am I getting my grades in? Am I doing the things I need to to do my best in my courses to get the most out of them for you? Because what you get out of each class that you're taking, not just this one, is going to benefit you long term in other areas of your life. So, this healthy concept of self, the choices that lead to well being, these are some things that we know for sure will help you. Not using tobacco, which of course includes vaping products. I know that the tobacco companies have gotten smart and they know how to make money. And so, vaping is a way that they figured out how to make money once cigarettes were banned from using in public places. So now we just have people more addicted to a different form of tobacco. So try not to be suckered into that. And if you are using it, trying to weed that out of your life, even if it takes some time. Not using excessive alcohol consumption is also important. Avoiding being overweight because that's always going to put more strain and stress on the body. Having a higher education level, not just because someone has a higher IQ or something, that's not part of it. It's this idea of we know how to take better care of ourselves because we've learned how to take better care of ourselves. And then just having stable relationships. Again, sometimes the relationships we have cause us lots of pain, anxiety, and if there's things we can do to improve those relationships and keep those in our life in a good way, doing that, or if there's things that might even need to be severed, but just having those stable relationships. So these are the things you can work on in this class and throughout your life. Having a lifestyle that is going to serve you well by exercising and doing all the things that you can to eat properly and all of those things, including doctor's visits. The environment, being aware of where you're living, how you're taking up space in that area, if you're contributing in good ways, if you're taking the best from what's around you and trying to get away from things that might be harmful. Your emotional state, being aware of it, and then using the best tools, whether it's mindfulness or something, to kind of deal with it, especially if it's a more negative energy type of emotion. And then your genetics that you basically have no control over, just being aware of them and trying to do what you can. Like my dad died from heart disease, and so I get tested every year just because I know that's a factor in my life. And then your healthcare. Are you getting your screenings done? I know once you get to college, a lot of times people kind of take a pause on getting yearly checkups because they are not children anymore. But I just want to encourage you to keep getting like a yearly physical. A lot of times they can find things early, and early detection. So, making good decisions is so important in your personal journey. Negative attitudes about ourselves and our bodies, which we internalize from history and popular culture, just make it difficult to choose healthy behaviors. So, we got to be aware of it and figure out what ways do you think your perceptions of yourself affect the decisions you're making. How do your emotions affect the decisions that you're making? Are you reacting quickly to things and maybe not doing the best option because it's just going on quick feeling and gut instinct? And how does your environment affect your lifestyle choices? And are there some changes that you can make in that? So, as you're ending this slideshow, just thinking of, can you articulate several examples of how your mind and body do interact? When exercising, you are involving all your dimensions and not just the physical or the body as previously supposed. Think of an example of this reality. Would your reality be I am my mind, or I am my body, or I am my body mind? Can you articulate several examples of healing methods that involve interaction of mind and body, and any with which you have had personal experience? What does it mean for you personally to live a healthy lifestyle and enjoy a high measure of integrated wellness? So just thinking of these questions as you move forward, I'm looking forward to this class with you, and I hope that you'll continue this journey to health.